In this video, I'll show you my top 2 techniques for dealing with food scraps in the winter, so you can keep them out of the landfill and put them to good use in your compost pile and your garden for year-round nutrition for your plants. These tips are easy to implement, and they're the same ones I've used for 35 years. So you'll learn how to repurpose your kitchen scraps without ending up with a stinky mess using the exact same methods that I use all year. Hi, I'm Marion Owen with the Gardener's Coach, where I help you grow your dream garden using super easy organic gardening techniques. So if you're in any way a cook, then you know the frustration when the weather turns cold and it's not so easy to deal with food scraps or make compost. Do you stop cooking? No, absolutely not. So I've lived in Alaska for almost 40 years now, and I've spent a good amount of that time experimenting and field testing tons of composting and organic gardening techniques. And in this video, I'm going to share with you my favorite top 2 techniques for dealing with this fabulous resource called food scraps to prevent organic material filling up your community landfill and give you options so you can take what you learn here and decide which methods work best for your specific situation. And make sure to stick around to the end, because once we've covered how to deal with food scraps during the winter, I'm going to share with you the results of my experimenting with restarting kind of a stalled out or dead compost pile in the middle of the winter in Kodiak, Alaska. Plus, I'll give you a tour of our compost setup, which I think will provide you with some creative ideas that you can put into place that'll help make composting easier, more convenient, more pleasant, and reduce the time it takes to get finished compost in the first place. Okay, so let's dive in. I want you to be successful, so let's start by setting yourself up for consistent success. Start by dedicating a collection container in your kitchen. It can be a bucket, a yogurt tub, or a reusable bag. This is where you'll toss in food scraps and other compostables. Keep it handy so you're not tempted to get lazy and throw away perfectly good stuff. Yes, perfectly good stuff. Food scraps are not garbage. Read my lips. Eggshells and eggplant, coffee grounds and corn cobs, these are resources, and they don't belong in the landfill where they simply rot and create harmful gases. The sooner we change our attitude and our actions around what is garbage, the better off we'll be, and the faster our planet can heal. All right, back to the collection bucket. When the bucket is full, head outside where you'll have 2 basic options to choose from. Number 1, the garden. Number 2, the compost closet. I'll cover both of these now. Number 1, the garden. Walk over to your garden and on the way, pick up a shovel, because you're going to dig a hole. That's right. You're going to bury the food scraps in your garden. Now you might be thinking, but Marion, it's winter and the ground is frozen. We can fix that. I'll show you. First, write this down. Dry soil is warm soil, is workable soil. That's what you want. Not soil that's saturated with water and frozen into an ice block. This raised bed has been covered since late October. I bent and secured PVC pipe sections into the raised bed and then covered the whole thing with reinforced plastic. This mini greenhouse is protecting seedlings of spinach, kale, arugula, and other greens that I sowed last September. I am excited because we won't have to wait for a sunny day in May. We'll be eating fresh salads in March, maybe late February, but see this soil? It's nice and fluffy. Now for this raised bed, which is not covered, it's a different story. The soil is as hard as a rock because it's been exposed to heavy rain and then it froze solid. No planting here until spring, or when I can come out next week to cover it with plastic and allow the soil to begin thawing. Where you have fluffy soil is where you want to practice what I call dig and drop with your food scraps. Here's a clipping from one of my workshops.
And so all you do, dig a hole, 1/3 of a meter, boom, drop in your food scraps and whatever organic material. Cover with soil, done. You can do it in between plants. If it's perennials or big rooted shrubs, just pay a little attention, maybe make a narrower hole or a little further away.
Now for number 2, the compost closet. This serves as a storage place for food scraps until you can get an active hot compost pile going. Your compost closet can be 5-gallon buckets, a compost tumbler, a tote, or an empty compost bin. Now to avoid a sloppy, stinky mess, and these are important to remember, when you dump in the food scraps, alternate the food scraps with dry carbon material. My favorite material is leaves that we collected from last fall. We store them in bags under the deck and keep a container of them close to our composting area. Finally, set up your compost closet where it's convenient and keep it covered. This year, I needed to make room for a compost closet, so I emptied out a bin into 5-gallon buckets and then stored the compost inside our hoop house. Now I simply toss in the food scraps, add the leaves, and give it a good stir each time. What goes in the compost closet freezes and thaws over the winter. Come spring, you just incorporate it into a new batch of compost. So there you have it. Collecting food scraps and putting them to use, whether you bury them or save them in a compost closet, is something you can do year-round. One quick note. If you don't have a place outside just yet, or your garden beds are frozen, never fear. You have options. You can freeze them in plastic bags or containers in the freezer. You can add them to a worm composting setup, or donate them to a friend's compost pile, or to your community collection site. When it comes to gardening and life, there are always options. I'm going to go over to the compost pile and see what's going on here. You can see our setup. It's pretty simple, but it's very effective. So this is a shed, covered shed, and it protects from the strong northeasterly winds that bring driving rain. And that way I don't have to cover my compost bins per se, but I'll show you what I do. And that is to put a piece of insulation, this is 1-inch foam insulation, but you can use a carpet or anything that rides down with the compost as it breaks down. So I did a little experiment recently where I took stalled out compost pile. It had gotten really cold in November, so I transferred it into this bin and incorporated some manure and fish bone meal and food scraps and leaves, and I got it started again. Or so I thought. So here's what happened is it's snowing. I put all of the ingredients together, and then I covered it with a pink foam insulation and stuck the thermometer in there, and then for a couple weeks, not much happened. It just sort of hovered at 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And that was sort of discouraging, but just the other day I took a look at it, and lo and behold, it was almost 120 degrees. So I think there's different things to do, different procedures to follow for winter composting. And you can hear the spruce cones hitting the roof above us. And one of those is to not turn it as often as you normally would during the summer. And I think I'll just do another video on winter composting tips, but I just want to show that it is possible to do some sort of composting when it's cold. So let's take a look at what the thermometer reads right now. So that's pretty awesome. It's about 110 or 112 degrees Fahrenheit. That's Compost Cowboy you see there. I found him face down in a patch of seaweed that I collected on the beach. So he keeps me company, Compost Cowboy does, and this is my favorite thermometer. It's a Rio temp, it's really sturdy, and it'll last for years. So anyway, I'm excited. 115 degrees. Rather than turn it every 2 or 3 days or so, I'm going to just let it sit for 5 days at a time before I turn it. Ideally, if you want to make get finished compost in 6 weeks, if you mix everything right, then the temperature should reach 140 to 160 degrees in 4 days. If you found value in this video, give me a thumbs up. It really makes a huge difference. Thanks. Meanwhile, go and check out the resources that I've linked in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!